I'm Rita Stewart, the queen of the school, and I don't care about anybody. But things may soon change because of the one person who can influence me. Who's that? Hear my story. Everyone at school knows me. I have no girlfriends. The girls hate me because I either stole their boyfriend or just used them for my own purposes. Haha, yes, I'm like that. An adorable monster, and every guy dreams of at least catching a glimpse of me, let alone going on a date. I built myself a long time, this image. And it was not easy. Because school is full of competitors who also want to be popular. But I'm not afraid of them. This I learned from my mother. She, a simple girl from the country, managed to marry a rich but elderly farmer. Soon he died, and she found herself another lucrative match, and then another. And now we live in a luxurious house in the city center. We have servants, several luxury cars in the garage, a profitable business for my mother. Everything is cool. And I want it that way, except I have a brother who's been getting on my nerves a lot, Derek. But we are nothing alike. Derek doesn't like my image of the queen and trolls me all the time. He posted a picture of me on Instagram with no makeup on to spite me, and I almost fainted when I saw it. I immediately rushed to delete it, but still, some classmates managed to see this shameful thing. He does not like the fact that I use people for my own benefit, and I can't do it any other way. Well, I used to be romantic too, dreaming about big and bright love. But my dreams were shattered because of this one guy who used me. It's a horrible story, and I will tell you more about it in a minute. But in the meantime, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you don't miss new videos. It all happened 3 years ago. I had just turned 13. And Derek's best friend Cameron came to visit us for the whole summer. He noticed me right away, shooting his eyes, making jokes, and my heart sank. I had never had a boyfriend like that. The guys from school at 13 years were just kids. And here he is, so adorable, and he quickly became my crush. I fell in love. There's nothing to hide. I've been hanging out with Cameron in the kitchen, riding bikes with him and my brother, playing tennis. Seeing me trying to get Cameron to like me, my brother just rolled his eyes. And Cameron, I realized later, was just having fun watching me hitting on for him. I started writing a diary. My feelings overwhelmed me. And I filled the blank pages of the thick notebook with them. I drew pictures of Cameron, dedicated poems to him, dreamed of how we would become a real couple. The summer was ending. Cameron's suitcases were packed. He was going home tomorrow. The three of us threw a party, deciding to party until morning. That night was the first time I really kissed a guy. Cameron. He held me so tenderly that I believed in his feelings. He took off the next morning and I started texting him on Insta. Love messages, of course. Day after day, I would send him romantic lines and memes and tell him how much I missed him. Until one day Derek, my brother, seeing that I was typing something on my phone again, gritted his teeth. Rita, stop this love hysteria. Cameron doesn't need you. He likes attention from girls, and you're just one of them. You're pathetic to look at. And with a snort, he left the room, rattling the door shut. I didn't believe it. So I decided to call Cameron and find out. I texted him for a week, and he didn't answer. Why not? If you don't want to talk, just say so. I found his number in Derek's phone, so I locked myself in my room and dialed the guy. It was ringing at first, and then I got an answer from a girl? "Yeah, I'm listening. Who is it?" she chirped merrily. "Can I talk to Cameron?" I tried to answer in a straight tone. "Why would you want to talk to my boyfriend? Who the hell are you?" The girl looked wary, and I hung up, and I cried. Of course she did. And I was so stupid. Cameron didn't give a damn about me. After that, I lay in bed for a week without talking to anyone. But the experience changed me, made me stronger and more confident. The new Rita Stewart was born, which now wants to date all the guys around. And I'm taking advantage of it. I change guys like a glove, trying to get revenge for my broken heart. The school year was coming to an end. I had big plans for the summer. I had to have a good rest before my senior year of high school. Suddenly, Derek swirled into my room. "Well, sis, summer promises to be bright," and winked slyly at me. "What are you talking about?" I asked lazily. "We have a guest coming. Cameron, remember?" And Derek raised his eyebrows meaningfully. Ugh, my insides shook. It'd been 3 years. I hadn't talked to him since. And then, what was he like? Will he remember me? "Stop, Rita. Pull yourself together." "No more romantic nonsense," I told myself. "Fine," I said calmly. "So I do not have to endure your stuffy company all summer. Let him come." But inside me was a tornado. What should I do? Yes, I've changed in the meantime. I've become more confident. But he was my first crush. I couldn't get it out of my head. And Cameron's certainly turned into a handsome man. Why don't I just go away for the summer? To get away from him. Or to give him a second chance. Oh, my head was spinning with thoughts. After a few sleepless nights, I decided that I would not be like an ostrich to bury his head in the sand. And on the contrary, I lifted my chin up and showed what a treasure Cameron missed 3 years ago. When he arrived, I updated my summer closet a bit, bought a few open dresses and sundresses. I went to the hairdresser and changed my haircut. In a word, I was ready for the arrival of my first unsuccessful love. And then one sunny morning, the door of our house opened, and right from the doorstep, I smiled at the guy. Derek rushed over to him with a loud shriek. "Hey bro, come on in. Don't be shy. Make yourself at home." Cameron nodded back and looked at me. Of course, as the hostess of this house, I came out to greet my guest too. "Rita, it can't be you. Is that you?" He shot me with his eyes from head to toe. "You've grown so much, and so much prettier." "You look good too, Cameron," I retorted calmly and went back to my room. I shut the door tightly behind me and then slumped to the floor on cotton legs. I needed to catch my breath. There was a fire inside. Cameron. He'd become as beautiful as a god. No exaggeration. I'd dated all kinds of guys over the years, and I'd always picked the best ones. But Cameron, he was like a magnet. I could tell he had a trim figure and a great haircut, which meant he could get a lot of girlfriends too. I cringed at that thought. "Okay, Rita," I whispered to myself. "Stop it. You can't keep making the same mistakes. It would hurt worse." I sat in my room for the rest of the night, my nerves giving me a headache. I could hear the laughter on the first floor and the music. The guys were having fun. And I chickened out. It was already deep into the night when I decided to go downstairs for some orange juice. It was quiet in the house. The kitchen was a mess. 2 boxes of half-eaten pizza on the table, crumbs everywhere. Well, I'm gonna kick my brother's ass tomorrow. Sorry about the mess. We'll clean it up in the morning. Cameron stood in the doorway and stared at me. Wow, I wasn't ready for that. In my pajamas and no makeup. Why does it always have to be like this? Cameron came closer, took out a glass and poured himself a juice too. I'm ashamed, Rita, of the way I treated you. Then, I was stupid. I did not understand that I hurt you. And suddenly, from behind my back, he pulled out my diary and put it on the table. Where did you get it? I was furious. I wrote there all my thoughts, experiences related to feelings for the guy. And then it was like the diary disappeared. We were renovating this house, and I thought it was accidentally thrown out with the other stuff. I won't tell you where I got it, but reading it made me feel like a real jerk. Cameron came close to me and gently lifted my chin with his fingers and looked into my eyes. Let's try again, Rita Stewart. And Cameron barely touched his lips to mine. The kiss burned me, and I nodded back. Yes, that's how easily I decided to give Cameron a second chance. It was my feeling for him for 3 years that had changed me, made me the Rita I was now. Maybe now Cameron and Rita can build a relationship? What do you think? Hello, my dear. Good morning, everyone. Maeve Rose is with you again. I got a great sleep and drank my vegetable smoothie. By the way, the recipe is already in my YouTube channel, so check it out. And now I'm off to pick out my outfit for school. Are you guys with me? Let's go! Maeve Rose is with you again. It is hard to be always energetic and cheerful, but this is exactly the Maeve my viewers got used to. And they don't care how bad I really feel today. I want to burrow down under the blanket and close the curtains and just lie there all day long, and I'll tell you why. I live in an upscale neighborhood, go to a great school, and at age 15, I'm making good money on TikTok. I have 1 million subscribers on my account, and I am a face of a well-known cosmetics brand for teenagers. I get recognized at school. All of our golden high school youth want to hang out and be friends with me because they think I'm one of them. But the truth is, you'll find out my biggest secret in a minute. But for now, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell. There are many more interesting stories ahead for you. So, my biggest secret is that I am a simple girl who moved to a gorgeous neighborhood from a poor slum. And I live with my mom, who works double shifts as a nurse to pay for our housing in the neighborhood and for me to go to school. And to help her, I started developing my social media account, coming up with interesting content, and listening to the beauty influencers, and my hard work paid off. Maeve Rose is a standout in the TikTok community. I have a best friend in my class, Evie. Usually, we hang out in the school cafeteria. Evie tells me the latest gossip, and I look for new ideas for my content. Now Evie was talking about her wild weekend, not shutting up for a second. Suddenly, her friend sighed noisily. Oh, no way! He's back? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a tall guy who walked into the school cafeteria. He nodded and smiled at a lot of people. Do you know him? Evie was clearly surprised. It's Kurt Donovan. We were in high school until he was spotted in the park by a representative of a famous modeling agency. And then it happened. A contract was signed and Kurt became a model. High school was forgotten, but he became a welcome guest at every party. How do you know so much about him? I couldn't take it anymore. Evie blushed and admitted that she was dating Kurt. But his career was more important to him. I saw the way Evie looked at that guy. It was obvious she had a crush on him. Kurt came to our table and Evie jumped up and threw herself at him. He pulled away from her and winked at me.
Hi, I'm Kurt. You're Maeve Rose, right?
I nodded. And Kurt immediately sat down next to me. He talked a lot about what a star he was and how everyone wanted to work with him.
Maeve Rose, I know you have 1 million subscribers on TikTok. And I just started my channel. Let's do a stream together. You'll get a buzz and I'll get new subscribers.
Kurt's offer was tempting. I immediately had some interesting solutions in my head how to make it go viral on TikTok. I nodded.
Great! Then I look forward to seeing you tonight. We'll figure out how to make it work, okay?
Kurt smiled and then quickly got up and walked away. I looked at Evie. She'd been sitting there quietly the whole time. He hadn't even spoken to me. Tears welled up in Evie's eyes. I felt a little sorry for her. Kurt lived in a luxurious mansion, which I knocked on the door in the evening. He showed me a room set up as a photo studio. We agreed to take some test photos for the posts. The lights were set up, Kurt set up his iPhone on a tripod, and started posing.
Come here, Maeve. We need some pictures together.
I stood beside Kurt, but he suddenly pulled me close to him, and a minute later, he kissed me. The shooting on my iPhone was on auto mode, so I got some hot shots. I pushed Kurt away. He grabbed his phone and jumped to the far corner. What the hell are you up to, huh? I wanted to throw myself at him, punch him in the face, and smash his pretty face good.
Get ready, Maeve. I posted a picture of the kiss. So I advise you to go along with our love story. It will benefit both you and me.
I was so offended. I turned around and was running home a minute later. At home, I huddled under the covers and turned off my phone. I was afraid to look at the feed. I could barely make myself go to school in the morning. Of course, everyone was whispering behind my back. The photo with Kurt got hundreds of likes overnight. With my head down, I hurried to class, but I was blocked by Evie. How could you do this to me? Her scream attracted a crowd of onlookers, and we began to be surrounded by a tight ring. I don't even want this popularity anymore for such a bitter price, I thought. Evie, let's discuss this in private, please. You're not my friend anymore. In fact, stop acting like you're the golden girl. You're a poor girl, Maeve. You don't belong in the school. I felt like I'd been punched. Turns out Evie knew my secret, but she didn't tell me. And then she decided to tell me in spite of me, clenched my teeth and turned and ran down the hall. Because of that stupid Kurt, I'd lost a friend and ruined my reputation because of that stupid Kurt. Maeve Rose had lied to everyone about her life. How am I supposed to get out of this story now? I had to get back at Kurt somehow. But how? Do you have any ideas? I'd listen to the craziest one. Hi, I'm Samantha, and I left home. I'm sitting at the bus stop, and I don't care where I go. But away from here. To never see my crazy mom again. You think I'm exaggerating? Then listen. I'm 14 and I can't remember when I've ever decided anything on my own. It doesn't matter whether it was what skirt I wear to school that day or where I want to go after school. I don't decide anything. Everything is always controlled by my mother. As soon as I learned how to talk, I realized that I always have to ask my mom about everything. She knows best. She's experienced. She doesn't want me to repeat her mistakes. About that, I listened to every day all the time. At first, everything was okay because Mom was telling Dad what to do and how to live. But when we celebrated my 6th birthday, my dad went away on a business trip and never came back. And then it turned out that he and my mom were divorced. We rarely see him because my mom keeps telling me that he's a loser and it's better not to hang out with that kind of guy. I was growing up and I slowly began to realize that my mother's control over my life was not normal. My friend Nancy, on the other hand, is not like that at all. Her mom doesn't control Nancy's every move. She's just there for her. She and Nancy are friends, and sometimes they talk about things so secretly that it's like, wow, I would never dare to talk to my mom about something like that. And recently, something happened that makes me want to run away from home. I'll tell you exactly what in a minute, but for now, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell so you don't miss new stories. Many of my girlfriends have already started dating boys. My mom always gave me a disdainful reply when she saw a guy and a girl my age walking down the street hand in hand. Well, if she accidentally saw a couple kissing somewhere, oh, that was horrifying. She would throw a loud tantrum about what their parents were doing wrong and that it was inappropriate at that age. Nancy laughed at my mom's reaction because she was already dating Jack from our school, and her mom knew about it. Nancy's birthday was coming the next week. She invited me over, saying it would just be Jack and me. We'd have a few laughs. My mom strictly told me to be home by 9 o'clock and not to eat chips and cola. I nodded silently as usual and exhaled already. Knocking on the door, Nancy. The door opened for me. It was a guy I didn't know. I was taken aback. This was Nancy's house, but why was he on the doorstep? Who are you? And where's Nancy? I blurted out. The guy smiled and invited me in. He introduced himself as Luke, Jack's friend, and said that Nancy had invited him to her birthday party too. As I walked down the hall to the room with my legs shaking, my insides were shaking as well. Nancy had decided to get me a boyfriend. She'd been asking me to go on a date for a long time, but knowing what kind of reprimand my mother would give me later, I'd refused. And there was no way to get out of it. At first, I wanted to be mad at Nancy. Why set me up like that? But the guy was so sweet. Luke and I had so much in common. He wasn't much of a party guy, and he spent a lot of time with his books. But at the same time, he wasn't a nerd like me. But I could talk to him about anything. Nancy and Jack sat in a corner all evening, smiling at me and Luke. And I lost track of time. We chatted and joked until someone knocked loudly on the door. Nancy opened the door. There on the threshold was, who do you think? My mother. It turned out that it was 10:30, and I was a whole half hour late getting home at the appointed time, and that my mom didn't know what to think, and that she wanted to call the police but decided to go see Nancy first. And there I was. How could I have done that? My mom's voice got louder and louder with each word. I huddled in the corner. I was so ashamed. In front of Nancy, her boyfriend, but worst of all, Luke could hear everything. He will never want to speak with me again. Why listen to these stupid tantrums later? I looked at my mother's distorted face, at Luke's surprised and slightly confused eyes, and suddenly realized that if I didn't fight back now, I would be on the leash with her for the rest of my life. Stop it, Mom. It's only half an hour. And I'm here at Nancy's house, just like I told you. We've been talking a little bit, and if you'd stop telling me not to carry my cell phone with me, you'd know I was okay. There was silence in the room. Mom clearly did not expect this. The situation was hard for me too. The tears started to choke me. I quickly ran out of the house. And now I was sitting at the bus stop. I was fed up with everything. I got on the first bus that came along and left.
There you are.
Lucas was standing in front of me.
And Mom was looking for you. Come on, let's go.
I'm not going back to her, Lucas. I'm sick of this control. Lucas crouched down beside me and hugged me and said quietly,
She just loves you very much, Samantha. Don't push her away, but let her know that you are not a little girl anymore. You have your own rights and personal boundaries. It's hard, but trust me, you can do it.
And I believed his advice. I went home. We talked to my mother all night long. We cried, we laughed, we argued, and our relationship started to change. And I really liked that. I also started dating Lucas. And my mom took it easy. What about you and your mom? Is it a healthy relationship? Write to me. I'll definitely answer. I'm Alexa, and I'm on a trip right now. I'm on one of the most beautiful islands on the planet. But there are such serpentine roads that you have to be very brave to go looping between the mountains. Do you think I'm scared? No. Because I am in a super modern sports car, took a course of extreme driving, and I enjoy such adrenaline rush. But all of a sudden, I heard a terrible rumble. Right in front of me, rocks began to fall from the mountain and everything fell into the road. A couple of rocks even fell on top of the car, and I lost consciousness, either from fear or from the impact. I woke up in the hospital. They told me that a guy had brought me here. They handed me my cell phone right away. It turned out that my dad had been calling me for a couple of hours. And my dad is a rich and powerful man who can buy anything and anyone. And now his only daughter disappears from the radar for a few hours. Sure enough, an hour later, on a private plane, he landed on the island to find out how I was doing. I had the best staff and doctors by my side. I got away with a mild concussion, but I couldn't stop thinking about who had saved me. I kept asking this question my dad until he brought Kevin into my room a couple of days later. Dad introduced him to me, saying that Kevin had saved me. A couple of days later, I was discharged and Kevin and I started traveling around the island. Cafes, restaurants, every day was like a holiday. After a week, we stopped at a little cafe in the mountains and Kevin asked me to be his girlfriend. He was from a wealthy family, just like me, so it was an alliance my dad would definitely approve of. That night, we rented a room at the hotel and had dinner there. Suddenly, the waiter, who brought us the food, nodded at me and said, "Hello, stranger. How's your head? Is everything okay?" I didn't understand at first, but all of a sudden, Kevin lunged at the guy with his fists. He hurriedly disappeared into the kitchen. Kevin didn't explain anything to me, but ordered to take our dinner to our room. His mood was clearly ruined. I couldn't get this guy out of my head. He knew me, but how? The next morning, Kevin went for a swim, and I quickly got dressed and hurried to the restaurant. The guy was just about to finish his shift. "Wait!" I stopped him, but he shook his head, saying we shouldn't talk, and when I pulled him up against the wall, I found out he'd saved me the other day, and that his name was Donnie, and that he was just a waiter who happened to be riding his moped through the evening and saw a sports car full of rocks and brought me to the hospital. I was shocked. Turns out my dad was lying to me. And Kevin, they had an agreement. Of course, Dad expected me to throw myself on my supposed savior's neck. We'd start dating. Kevin was from a rich family, so everything would be fine. But I wasn't going to let myself be used. I packed my bags and hailed a cab and left the hotel. Kevin had been calling me for hours, sending me dozens of text messages to explain. But I was already on a plane on my way home to California. And not alone, but with Donnie. There was a spark between us back in the restaurant this morning when I questioned him. Yeah, he's just a waiter, but isn't money the best thing? Especially since I have plenty of it. We arrived at my spacious apartment in one of the city's skyscrapers. Donnie was shocked. He'd never seen anything like this in his life. I decided to spoil him a little by taking him to one of the brand name boutiques. After all, my boyfriend couldn't walk around in a pair of knockoffs. Donnie tried on some suits for my dad's favorite fashion designer's latest collection, and oh my god, he looked incredible. The simple guy had become an irresistible handsome man. But suddenly, at the cash register, the cashier, blushing, apologized to me, saying that my debit card is blocked. What? I tried 5 more, but in vain. We left the store with nothing. I realized that my dad was getting revenge on me because the cards were his, and he didn't like what I was doing. That's okay, I thought. I'll survive. I started looking for a job, but it was no use. After school, I decided to take a break. And I didn't go anywhere. And why should I? When my father provided me with a comfortable life, but without work experience, without skills, they only took me as a waitress. And my pride wouldn't let me do that. Donnie and I started fighting. He convinced me that we should rent out my luxurious apartment and move into a smaller room. But I can't live like that. And who is he to tell me what to do? Donnie and I had a fight and he freaked out and left. My refrigerator was empty and my phone was disconnected for non-payment. I sat on the terrace of my huge apartment and realized that no one was there for me. I was used to living off my father's money, but I was always obliged to do what he wanted. And once I had disobeyed him, Dad threw me out of his life. Now either I had to fall to my knees and beg for his forgiveness if I wanted to go back to my luxurious, carefree life, or build my life from scratch. A year went by. I had to sell my huge closet, gave up my massage therapist, nutritionist, and beautician, moved to a more modest part of town. But I made a huge investment in my education. I took several online courses and mastered the profession of an image maker. And now my business has gone up. I still have to work hard and hard to live like Alexa did in the past, but I am totally independent and happy. All this time I haven't spoken to my father, but the other day he called me. We talked. We agreed to see each other. I think things will work out, but now he's gonna have to respect my opinions. I'm not a puppet anymore, and I'm in control of my life. Hi. Well, you don't want to know my name. It's not safe. But you'd better listen to the end of the story that happened to me. You also need to subscribe to this channel because there are tons of great stories to come. So, I grew up to be a very smart kid, and by the time I was 12, I had passed all my high school exams, and I got a high school diploma. My parents were very proud of me, especially my father, whom I rarely saw. It was all because of his job, but my mother kept it a secret from me. Dad always brought me strange presents from business trips. A microphone in the form of a bug, a lockpick for any door, a night vision device. And when he saw my diploma, my dad asked me to pack all my presents in a backpack. An hour later, we pulled up to a huge glass structure downtown. Dad pulled out his badge, put it on the reader. The doors opened, and we quickly stepped inside. It was a school, but an unusual one, a spy school. And my dad had brought me here to study. I was absolutely thrilled. It turned out that my dad is a secret agent. That's why he was long gone on business trips. And after showing my results on my studies to the director of the School of Spies and at the same time his best friend, my dad got me an invitation to study here. And I began an interesting life. I studied here for 2 years. I learned to communicate fluently in 5 languages, learned different coding for messages, got excellent physical training and many other skills, from which I was wildly delighted. I even managed to fall in love with one guy, Sebastian, who was the best in the course. And there were not only strong feelings between us, but also fierce competition. Everyone wanted to be the best. But suddenly after Christmas, Sebastian didn't show up at school anymore. They said it was for family reasons, and there was no point in asking around. Everything was top secret. I was too busy studying to forget about the guy. 2 years of study flew by like a day, and there was a real task waiting for me as an exam: to track down a criminal. The Phantom, that was his name. In 3 months, he had managed to rob 10 of the biggest banks in the country. And each new crime was so perfect that neither police nor intelligence agencies could do anything. I was given access to the Phantom case, tons of information to study. I stayed up for a week reviewing each of his crimes, realizing that the Phantom had a weakness for rare jewels. I created a fake news story to pique his interest. I came up with the idea that there would be an exhibition of jewels in town. Among them, the Queen's most expensive tiara. And until the exhibition, the tiara would be kept at the General National Bank. The news was set in motion. The bank's management was aware of the planned operation to capture the Phantom. The exhibition was 1 night away, and I had one and only one chance to catch the Phantom. It struck midnight. The bank was quiet. Just the guards and me. Outside, a team of agents was waiting for my signal. It was like time had stopped. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. I began to lose hope. It was probably a bad plan, and the Phantom didn't care about the ring. And suddenly, what is it? I heard a sound, and a shadow flashed in the hall. Oh, is it him? Stop right there! I jumped out of my hiding place and pointed a small pistol loaded with sleeping darts at the dark figure. Suddenly, the figure threw off its hood, and I heard a soft, painfully familiar voice. "Hello, little one. Long time no see." And then Sebastian grinned cheekily at me. "You're the Phantom?" I exclaimed. Sebastian crossed his arms and stared at me calmly, and there was a mute question in his eyes. "And what are you going to do, kid? Are you going to turn me in?" And I did not understand who was in front of me. The criminal, whom I must apprehend, or the beloved man with whom not so long ago we kissed until morning. If you're wondering what I did, subscribe to the channel and set the bell. A sequel to the story will come out soon, and maybe it will end happily ever after. What would you do yourself? What would you choose? The person you love or the thing you love? Write it in. I'm interested in what you think about it. Hi, it's the middle of the night, and I have a boyfriend in my sights. I'm holding a real gun, and my boyfriend is a real criminal. I've been hunting a thief, and now I have to cuff my lover. How did this happen? Listen carefully. I'm 14 years old, and I'm a real spy. It all started 2 years ago when, after graduating early from regular school, my dad assigned me to spy school. I spent 2 years there, and I realized it was really what I like: espionage, tracking criminals, undercover work. There's a separate story about how it all started on the channel, and you'll find a link to it in the description to this video. And please subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell to be the first one to know about new videos. So, at spy school I met Sebastian, who was also studying to be a spy. His talents were legendary. He was the best in the class. It was rumored that right after graduation, he would go abroad for an internship. At first, I didn't like him because we were competitors. I also had the best grades in theory, but in practice, Sebastian was often the best. Then, out of the blue, during one of the rare parties they threw for the students, Sebastian and I found ourselves at the same table. We got to talking and realized we had a lot in common. Suddenly, the two rivals became a couple and we started dating. At school, there were 3 strict rules about student behavior. Nothing was supposed to interfere with our studies. So, for a long time, we hid the fact that we were dating. And then, in the middle of the school year, Sebastian disappeared. He stopped showing up to class. He was not answering his cell phone. And it was risky to ask about him. So I bored in silence. The course was coming to an end. Everyone was given a practical assignment, which, if successfully completed, made you a real spy. My task was to track down the Phantom. He is a brilliant jewel hunter, and no one can catch him. I researched all the information about him, prepared a trap for him in the bank vault, where he was to steal another piece, and he took the bait. In front of me is the dark figure of a criminal who is marked as extremely dangerous in the intelligence databases. I have a loaded gun in my hand, and there is a large task force outside, ready to help me at the first signal. But my hood falls down, and I see Sebastian.
Hello, shorty.
Sounds especially cheeky at this minute. He looks at me with his beautiful eyes, which read challenge.
So, pretty girl, will you give me up? Will you complete your task to the end?
And I am shocked. Over the earpiece in my head, the head of the operation asks how I'm doing, and I have to do something.
I missed you, baby.
Sebastian takes a step toward me. I missed us. But you disappeared. Why? To become a thief?
Baby, it's not as easy as you think. I didn't really have a choice. But you do have a choice.
I can't control myself. My hands are shaking. I want to believe Sebastian, but I was trained in the school of spies. How criminals can manipulate people. What if Sebastian is doing the same thing now? Suddenly the lights go out. I hear a whisper. A man's voice.
Go away immediately.
Furniture rumbled. Glass shattered. There was a shrieking sound. Suddenly, there was a team of masked men on the doorstep, but there was no one else in the room but me. The next day, a detailed analysis of the situation was waiting for me at school. The principal talked to me very harshly. I realized that I had failed the task. Dad came rushing over, and they had a long conversation with the principal behind closed doors. I was sent on vacation. The director advised me to rest, gather my thoughts, and try to take the exam again. I realized that Dad had told the principal about my relationship with Sebastian. That's why they decided to help me out. It's awfully boring at home. I don't want to do anything. Every morning my mother tries to surprise me with breakfast. I have no girlfriends. I spent the last 2 years in the school of spies. Yoga and books save me. I read detective stories and think about Sebastian. One night I was awakened by a rustling noise. I opened my eyes and saw that the window was ajar. Strange. I always close all the windows at night.
Hi, baby.
I almost jumped out of bed at that familiar voice. Sebastian was sitting on the edge of the bed, smiling. He took my hands in his and gently touched his lips to my forehead.
Thank you for not giving me up. I'll never forget it.
But why, Sebastian? Why did you become a thief? Suddenly the door opened, and my father rushed into the room. He had a gun in his hand. He pointed it at Sebastian.
You won't get away this time, son. Let's do this the right way, and I won't hurt you.
Sebastian looked at me. I shook my head. No! I didn't betray you, and I don't know how Dad found out. A few minutes later, they took Sebastian in handcuffs and put him in the police car. I was on the doorstep of the house, my father hugging me tightly. We talked with him in the kitchen until morning. He told me that Sebastian was probably a puppet in the hands of his father, Dr. Lustig. That's how his name is in the Secret Service database, but no one knows what he looks like. And now, having caught his son, the Secret Service has a powerful trump card to capture Lustig himself, and that my dad had to install a camera in my room. He was sure that sooner or later Sebastian would show up, and that now I could go back to spy school. Dad talked, and all I saw was Sebastian's surprised and frightened face in front of me. He would think that I had betrayed him to become a spy, betrayed our love, and yet I have not. What could I change? Unless I go back to the school of spies, pass my exam, go into the service, and start my own investigation into Lustig to see how Sebastian is involved. And maybe save him. Do you think I should do that? I'm Yuki. I'm 15, and I fell in love with someone I should have avoided. Now my life is in danger, and I'm afraid there's no turning back. You think I'm overreacting? Then listen and write your opinion. Come in, it's my school. But without a shiny Mustang in the school parking lot and a Gucci from the latest collection over your shoulder, you're nobody here. It's all about how you look. And if you're not one of the golden youth, you're an outcast. So am I. I'm from a poor family. But as a reward for great progress in school, I got the opportunity to study at this prestigious institution for a year. The first week, of course, I was in euphoria. There are so many opportunities. Modern classrooms, equipment, disciplines. It is the dream of anyone who wants to gain knowledge. But instead, in the first few days, I got a firm kick in the nose. Yes, the girls in class immediately realized that I did not belong in their circle, and it treated me like rubbish. They poked me, giggled at my back, or just acted like they did not notice me. And that's terrible, I tell you. I had never felt so lonely until I saw a gray shadow like mine in the cafeteria. Mao became my friend, also from a poor family. She and I have similar life situations and the same impression of the school. We immediately determined that our school has a company of unspoken leaders, the so-called Golden 10, guys and girls who stick together and see the others as their servants. The school authorities know about them perfectly well, but always turn a blind eye to what they do. After all, the parents of these majors are the main patrons of the school. So these kids did what they wanted in school, knowing that no one would punish them. I stayed away from them. The main leaders who were especially dangerous were the cheeky Sawada and the ugly Misaki. They liked to make fun of others. Nasty and sometimes cruel jokes drove others to tears. Everyone in that 10 was nasty, except one. He was always silent, even mysterious, but very confident. Haruto was the guy's name, and people said that his father was a famous politician. While this loud company usually laughed out loud in the dining room during lunch, Haruto was either sitting on his phone or just staring blankly somewhere. And that's when I was secretly watching him. He had the looks of a movie actor. Handsome, tall, always thinking about something. He could easily become a movie star if he wanted to. And the funny thing was, I realized that Misaki, the golden girl, was really into him. She went out of her way to get Haruto's attention, always taking a seat next to him, showing him something on her phone, bringing him lunch. But Haruto was like bulletproof glass. Then one day, everything changed for everyone. I'll tell you in a minute. But right now, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and click on the bell. There's a lot of interesting stuff ahead. Don't miss it. So, school cafeteria, lunch, lots of people. It was a week of final tests, so everyone was nervous. Mao and I ate, and my girlfriend wanted some juice. She grabbed a glass of juice from the counter and hurried over to our table, scrolling through Twitter at the same time. At the same moment, Savada was walking at a brisk pace from the other end of the dining room, also on his phone. Mao swooped down on him and, oh my, the juice was a yellow stain on his t-shirt. There was a deathly silence in the dining room. "It's our money! Do you know how much it costs?" Sawada pointed a finger at Mao. She turned white, and I knew that in a second she's going to cry. I couldn't let that happen. Quickly jumping up and running over to Mao, I stepped between her and Sawada. "Don't touch her! She didn't mean it! I'm sorry about that. I'll cover the cost of dry cleaning the shirt." Sawada smirked. "Look at that! The gray moth has a protector! And he came right at me!" My knees trembled, but I didn't move. Sawada could have knocked me down with his little finger, but I didn't care. "I will make your life a hell," I heard in my ear, and I braced myself for the worst with my eyes squeezed shut. But suddenly I heard quick footsteps, and I opened my eyes, and right in front of me was Haruto. He covered me with himself and said calmly, "Sawada, forget it. They're not worth it." For the first time I heard his voice, so soft, like velvet, and my chest fluttered. Sawada was seething with anger, but apparently Haruto's word had a lot of weight, because a second later, the offender turned around and left the canteen. Haruto turned to me and, smiling slightly, asked, "Are you okay?" That look, that smile, the voice, Haruto just charmed me, and I couldn't squeeze anything out of myself in response. Mao grabbed my hand and dragged me to the table. The last thing I noticed was the look in Misaki's eyes. She was ready to tear me apart on the spot. From that moment on, my life changed. Haruto became the center of my universe. He had attracted my attention before, but now he started nodding to greet me. Rarely, but smiling back. My classmates started treating me differently, respecting me. They said I was so brave that I took a chance against the formidable Sawada. But one day I ran into Misaki in the ladies' room. She was waiting for me. She poked me roughly in the chest with her finger and hissed, "Don't look at him! Otherwise I'll destroy you! Haruto is mine!" And she's not kidding. I can't stop thinking about him. I wish I could find out if he likes me. Then no Misaki would scare me. But how? Should I go up to him? Or should I stand aside because I don't know if I'm that good looking? Would you fight for your happiness? Or would you wait for Haruto to make the first move? Please give me your advice.
Hi, I'm Yuki. I'm 15, and I go to one of the most prestigious schools in Tokyo, where only golden youths or lucky kids like me from regular schools can go. I won a grant, and now I'm going to study here for a year. I've already told you about my first impressions of this school, and about the handsome Haruto, who I'm really into. In the description of the video, there'll be a link to that story. Watch it, it's very interesting. And now, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell and you'll be the first to know about new stories on the channel. In short, this school, like everywhere else, has its leaders. It's Sawada, the leader among the Golden Boys, who my friend Mao recently ran into. The unpleasant incident with this guy helped me look at Haruto differently. He's also a classmate of mine, handsome as a movie star, and unavailable as a Tokyo TV tower. This guy stood up for Mao, which came as a shock to the whole school. After all, who are Mao and I? Just pale shadows, inconspicuous, uninteresting to anyone. But now Haruto's attention to me has created a new problem. Misaki, the girl has been giving me a hard time ever since that day in the cafeteria. Misaki is the queen of the school, and no one dares to conflict with her. One day in the classroom, she came at me and pressed me against the wall, whispering in my ear that I shouldn't even look in Haruto's direction. I didn't say anything at that moment, but I protested inside. I need to become more confident enough to fight back against people like Misaki. I decided, yes, I'm poor and I don't have powerful parents, but I'm human too. And I'll make them respect me. So I started with boxing.
The school has a lot of different classes, and everyone can do what they want. I want to learn how to take a punch, and if I have to, how to fight back powerfully. That's what I told the boxing coach, who couldn't understand what such a fragile girl would be doing in the ring. After classes, I ran to the gym and worked up a sweat there. One day, I ran into Haruto in the hallway. It turned out he was taking kendo classes. It's a technique similar to fencing, but with a very different philosophy. And the other day, when I looked into the kendo training room, I understood why Sawada had backed out in the canteen the other day and didn't want to argue with Haruto. They had a sword fight, Haruto and Sawada, and Haruto defeated him with ease. Wow, I thought, so Haruto is a fighter just like me. What are you doing here, mouse? I heard a familiar whisper behind me. Misaki was holding water and fruit. Probably waiting for Haruto. She brings him lunch in the cafeteria and snacks here. So much for the school queen. I lowered my head and took a step back. I kicked the pair with anger and thought the moment will come and I will make Misaki apologize for all the hurtful words, even with a powerful hook. The next day, the class announced a report contest on the topic Protecting the Environment in the Metropolis. The prize for the most original ideas was a week at a camp in a French village, where you could lose your head in the beauty of the alpine scenery, plus, of course, learning French. I got excited about the idea. It was my chance to see something new in this life. And I began to prepare my report. Work took all my strength. I even missed a few boxing trainings. And in a week, I presented my report. A big hall, serious jury. I was shocked to see Haruto among the presenters. It turned out he was participating for the third year in a row, and that year he won. I was the last one to speak. I was terribly nervous. Mao texted me with words of support. When they announced me, I imagined I was getting in the ring. And this was my decisive fight. I don't remember how I spoke, but the sound of applause deafened me. Yes, I won. Haruto came up to me, hugged me, and whispered, "Congratulations." And now I'm here in France. I flew in yesterday. I have a luxurious room overlooking the lake. I still can't believe that all this is happening to me. I met all kinds of interesting people here. Guys and girls from America, Canada, and Italy all on the same page. This week flew by like one day. And then my last night here. I'm sitting on a bench near the camp, looking at the stars, and all of a sudden, hello? Haruto appeared beside me as if by magic. It turned out that his father would be giving the closing speech at the camp tomorrow, and he came along. He also wanted to see how you were doing. Haruto sat down next to me. My heart was beating so loudly that I was afraid Haruto would hear it. He and I chatted until almost morning. I shared my impressions, and Haruto smiled and nodded back. He told me that, like Dad, he wanted to be an environmentalist too. Haruto's eyes sparkled as he shared his thoughts with me. I wanted to show my support somehow, so I took his hand. Haruto didn't let go of me all day. We ate breakfast together, he helped me pack. Then a farewell party. We smiled and danced and joked. And at night, the flight home, Haruto switched seats with another passenger to sit next to me. And in the morning at the airport in Tokyo, we had to part ways. A cab was waiting for me. Haruto and Dad were picked up by their private driver in a black Honda. Thank you, Haruto, for supporting me. I really appreciated that. I tried to smile, but I felt sad. Next semester, a trip to England will be raffled off. And there can be a few winners. The topic is different, but I'm sure you can surprise the jury. Haruto held my hand gently. I'll participate. We'll win together. What do you say, Yuki? Oh, so that's it. I've grown wings behind my back. We'll go together with Haruto. I jumped on the spot. I wanted to squeal with happiness. Me and Haruto.
But that's our secret for now, okay?
Haruto kissed my forehead, and a second later, the black Honda and its passengers disappeared around the corner. I felt butterflies inside me. Did Haruto really like me? He'd come to France to see me and offered to participate in the contest together. Or was it only my imagination? Am I just a friend to him? Well, we'll see, and this time I will not give up. I will not let my happiness go away. You'd fight too, wouldn't you?